Mr. Nir Barkat, thanks so much for being with us. So we know that last-ditch efforts are underway, even as we speak, to form a unity government between the Likud party and the Blue and White party. We also know that Benny Gantz has said he will not sit with Benjamin Netanyahu under indictment. So what is the Likud willing to do to make it happen?
Well, let's first remember all that the goal that we all have together is to make sure that there's a government. Israel's paying a heavy price. Most likely, if we go to third elections, we'll end up at the same result. So we all have to take our claims and think together how we maybe one step below on the ladder, and we have to converge on a deal. I think that if we all stick to our principles, we will not have a government, and Israel will suffer. So it's all about trying to seek out a deal, see where the differences are, and I believe there are not very big differences, and work out a deal.
Is it possible for some kind of deal that would involve someone else in the Likud at least taking over during the period when he is on trial?
I think that the key here is not to dictate to the other side who is the leader. Almost half of the people of the country want to see Netanyahu lead and be prime minister. And the other half maybe doesn't want to see Netanyahu. But I honestly believe that by law, because Netanyahu can be prime minister, we just heard the legal counsel of the government very, very clearly state that there's no reason why he cannot continue his role. Netanyahu has done a phenomenal job in spite of everything that has happened so far, and I honestly believe he's the right person to continue leading us. And so my request from Blue and White is, please, don't dictate to us who's our leader, the elected leader of the right-wing parties, and we do not dictate to you who will be your leader. Let's focus on how we converge together and make a win-win deal for all people. And we cannot make a deal if everyone sticks to all their 100% of their principles.
Mr. Barkat, but at this point, the wider picture is this. Benjamin Netanyahu has failed not once, but twice to form a government, in addition to being under indictment. So how can you explain to voters that you still prefer to hold on to Netanyahu as leader of the Likud party, no matter what, rather than, or go to a third election, that you prefer a third election instead of letting Netanyahu give up his seat?
Well, neither did Blue and White were able to form a government. So it's not that it's one party's or the other party's blame. The reality is that if we listen to what the public says, they want to see a unity government. They do not want to see Netanyahu form half of the people do not want to see Netanyahu form a government alone, and the other half does not want to see Benny Gantz form a government. And so the rationale is we have to do a deal together. There's no other choice. It has to be together. And honestly, if people stick to those claims, which are unreasonable by law, the law enables the prime minister to continue serving as prime minister. So I honestly am saying to my friends on the other sides, our rivals, they're also friends of ours in many, many ways. So we have to sit together, take that claim off the table, and find out how we could work together.
Yes, but you have proposed that the Likud also choose a vice chairman who could step in if the Attorney General, for example, decides that Benjamin Netanyahu cannot form the next government. Have you found anyone else in the Likud who supports you on that idea, and if so, who?
Yes, indeed. My proposal is to try and get the two parties closer to each other. Right now, the process in the Likud is cumbersome. It's very complex, and right now there's nobody defined as a deputy for Prime Minister Netanyahu. There's no such thing. And so my proposal is, let's find somebody that will only replace Netanyahu if he has to go to his trial and could not continue his role.
Right, Mr. Barkat, we know the proposal.
My proposal is like the United States of America.
But who is supporting, if anybody?
I'm not sure that all the public knows the proposal.
Well, who is supporting the proposal to have a deputy leader of the Likud, and are you vying for that position yourself?
Let me just explain, just to make sure that the public understands. We want to sort of, the inspiration is the American model of the president and the vice president that immediately replaces him. That's not the current situation in the Likud. And the reason I want that, and there are people in the Likud, nobody said no. Nobody in the Likud said no. And nobody in Blue and White has said no. The proposal is up there in the air. And hopefully now with the head of the Knesset, Yuli, if we can get people to sit together, this could be one of the ideas to gain trust between the people, to understand that even in Likud, we're thinking of a day after, not to replace Netanyahu the way he is right now, but if, God forbid, he needs to step down for legal reasons or other reasons, and converge on a reasonable deal that people feel comfortable enough with.
We understand your party is going to primaries. Do you intend to run for the, if they do have it, that position of vice chairman?
Well, first of all, I'm willing to do anything that my party will agree. It could be Netanyahu could appoint somebody, whoever he wants. If we don't want, he doesn't want to appoint it, long term, I believe this should be done in primaries, so that when we do primaries for the leadership of the party, side by side, we should have the vice leader, the vice chairman of the party simultaneously, so that in the future it will not be cumbersome. But I don't care what the process is right now, and I actually don't care if it's me or not. Hopefully, of course, I would like to run for it, but it's not a condition for me because I understand that this is needed to converge with blue and white on a deal. So the concept is more important than the people fulfilling it.
Mr. Barkat, we've seen Netanyahu ratcheting up his rhetoric since the indictment was announced. He's called to investigate the investigators. He's called this a coup. Then we saw signs at a rally calling for the arrest of the state prosecutor, no less. Simple question. Do you believe this indictment of Benjamin Netanyahu is an attempted coup?
There are many, many questions about the process of gathering evidence. For example, some of the evidence gathered for state witnesses and other evidence and methods used in America, they would not be admissible to the court of law. And so there's a big question in our country.
So is it a coup? You believe that this is a coup to topple Netanyahu?
No.
It's a simple question because that's what Netanyahu claims.
That have very, I don't know, the courts will decide that. If it ever gets to the courts will decide. I've seen cases where the courts took either side in a process, in a legal process, and I honestly know that and believe that Prime Minister Netanyahu believes he's innocent. Many of us would like to see him prove his innocence. He's innocent until proven guilty. I just want to remind everyone. And so the whole question of the legal issues, there are challenges and fixes that we need to fix regardless of the situation of Benjamin Netanyahu. And these are things that we will have to fix anyway into the future. So we have one country. I believe in our legal system. I believe that eventually we only have one police and only one state prosecutor. And if there are fixes to fix, we have to fix them and not destroy them. So I think that I'm representing the majority of the people of Israel and, of course, the Likud.
All right, Mr. Nir Barkat, thanks very much for being with us.
Good night.